Hello and welcome back to Typical City. 3 PSG players have been offered to Manchester City in an attempt to lure Bernardo Silva the other way. And Gvardiol, what is the latest on that? We're not hearing much news. Is there any development in that situation? And there is one other centre-back that City have been linked with, not instead of Gvardiol, as well as Gvardiol. So that should be interesting. Mahrez. A bid was rejected yesterday, I believe, so City is still in negotiations with Al Ali regarding the sale of Riyad Mahrez. We'll talk about that. Cancelo, back in training. That's an interesting topic to discuss. We'll talk about that. And I personally have an idea that might be worth clipping if you're interested in clipping what I say. And come back to me in a year's time to see if it has any truth to it whatsoever. An interesting idea that not many people have even suggested yet, so it could well be the case. But let's start with the 3 PSG players coming from PSG to City or being offered to City. From a nonsensical article, this comes from The Express, makes zero sense whatsoever. The 3 players being Donnarumma, a goalkeeper, Marco Verratti, okay, a defensive midfielder who's 30 and very much at the declining end of his career and doesn't play anywhere near Bernardo Silva's position in the midfield role at least. And Kimpembe, a second choice centre-back that I think he got about 11 appearances for PSG, sat behind Marquinhos and Ramos, so he was barely getting any game time himself last year. A good player, don't get me wrong, but what position, formation do people think we are playing? I mean, with the news of Gvardiol plus another centre-back, are we going to play 9-1, a wall of 9 centre-backs, and boink, stick Haaland up top? That'll do. Pep used to say we have a team of midfielders. Now it's a team of defenders plus Erling Haaland up top. So I can't see that being the case going for Kimpembe. And Donnarumma's the laughable one. That was the red flag immediately in this article. I was like, do you even have a clue at what we're talking about? And Donnarumma, we've got Edison and Ortega right now. Why would we sell Bernardo Silva? Who'll be a good replacement? Donnarumma, that'll be perfect. That would make perfect sense. I mean, this is some FIFA guy, clearly. Guy who sat there and gone like, pick that player, Donnarumma, Kimpembe and Verratti. Yeah, they'll do. We'll just make an article about that and talk some absolute nonsense about 3 PSG players being offered to City. Someone's an idiot in the pipeline that's happened here. Either the person who wrote the article or PSG themselves are morons to even suggest that Bernardo Silva is even worth all 3 together. Even then, if you gave all 3 at the same time, it's still not a great deal. Because I mean, come on. It doesn't make any sense. Bernardo Silva is someone that is vitally important to us, and he will be the domino effect. Should he leave City? I don't think he will. I think this is the one player that we're really being determined to keep hold of and showing no signs of even suggesting that he's going for anything less than 80 million. If you want him, you pay up. And no one seems to be getting close to that 70, 80 million pound fee that I think he's worth that. City surely do. I don't even think he's worth selling. If he can be happy at City, that's the key factor. You keep a player and he's miserable, you start questioning whether it was worth keeping him to begin with. Because if you've got a player who's playing at 80% of his capacity, then you've not got the same Bernardo Silva. It was worth selling him in the end, especially if he's miserable. He does not come across like that. There is no signs of him spitting his dummy out and having a hissy fit like certain players I'm going to talk about in a minute. It doesn't seem the type. Maybe his wife is whispering in his ear every time he gets home and says, "Get out of City, I'm bored." It is pissing it down today, by the way. Absolutely atrocious weather in Manchester right now. So, yeah, I can see why his wife might want to go to Barcelona or Paris. Now, Paris isn't that much better weather, by the way. I've been to Paris, and the best meal I had in Paris was a McDonald's. I remember it. Overrated city if I've ever seen one. But, anyway, his wife might want to go there. Fair enough to her. Personally, I don't see any sense in this whatsoever. 3 PSG players, no, not going to happen. And I mean, I can't think of any PSG players, in fact, that I would be happy to swap with for Bernardo Silva. Knowing what that guy does and what he's done for City over the years and what he's capable of, there would be question marks over any of the PSG players coming to City of whether they can do the same job. I don't think that he's such a rare breed of player that we want to keep hold of our asset as tightly as we possibly can. To the point where it's like we have to twist his arm a little bit and be a little bit against the grain of what we've shown towards other players and letting players go. He is that important that maybe we need to tweak our policy a little bit and just for the allowance of Bernardo Silva to stay. I think he is that important. But Gvardiol, what is going on with him? I think it's going to happen. I think the deal's going to happen. It's just that €100 million price tag that they've stuck with it, and it's a fixed fee. They keep saying it. There's no getting away from it. It's pay the €100 million, just as I was saying about Bernardo Silva, pay the 70, 80 million that I think he's worth, or you don't get him. RB Leipzig are doing the very same thing and saying you aren't getting Gvardiol without paying €100 million. That is the consistent stance that they have taken throughout this whole deal. And I'm not sure whether that's why that's not happened. Are City trying to angle more add-ons and maybe performance-based add-ons? If he wins a Champions League, we'll give you 5 million. That's that type of add-on. That sort of deal that you bide your time with the outlay, and the fee doesn't seem as dramatic when you first sign him. But he's 21 years old, the complete package, an absolute worldie of a defender. And we're talking now about 100 million could actually be worth it, especially if you spread that cost over, maybe even keep him beyond 30, over a decade. 10 million a year for someone that's as capable as him starts to look very much worth it. So you question whether it's not a case of City just go on, just go that extra mile for this player. I talk about tweaking a policy in the sales department, maybe in the purchasing department and acquiring of players. Maybe we need to tweak that policy a little bit as well and go the extra mile. You don't want to bend over a barrel for everybody and let people rear you for every single deal. No, you don't want that. But you've got to have a little bit. Negotiations require that, that setup. I find it hard to imagine that City have an idea of a figure. They walk into or enter the phone for any type of liaising for negotiations, and they have a set figure in their mind. This is the figure we see this player is worth. Okay, hypothetical nobody, 40 million for a certain player, A, B, Z, whatever, you can call him whatever. And they say, no, we want 41 million. No, see you later. No, not worth it. We're not saying 41 million. 40, that's it, or we're walking away. I doubt City have that approach. Surely there's some leeway in the negotiations. How far City wants to go in that leeway, may have already happened. City may have already hit the peak of what they consider to be leeway and in the negotiation process. But is it getting to the point where you just pay it now? Just pay it. But in similar news, as well as Gvardiol, City are supposed to be after is Abdoulaye Ndiaye, an unknown player, Senegalese, Lyon, loaned out to Bastia. League Two, he spent his time. So this is one for the future. £1.5 million his price tag. And looking at the clips I've seen of him, he does look a man amongst boys. He looked very powerful and composed, a big strapping young man. So he looks like a unit, very much a defending defender, if you know what I mean. None of this ball playing nonsense. He looked like he put his head in where it hurts type defender. So yeah, I'm interested in that. It should be a doable fee considering it's 1.5 million. So one for the future, alongside Gvardiol, because when you start hearing about new centre-back targets, you start worrying, right, is the Gvardiol deal gone now? Or we start looking for alternatives. Thankfully, it's not an alternative, it's an as well as. Now, onto Mahrez. £18 million was the first bid, plus add-ons, that was rejected by City from Al Ahly. And I mean, that is an absolute insult, I think. And I think 30 million is fair. I think 30 million is okay. Obviously, I'd take more if it was up for grabs, but 30 million I think is reasonable, mainly because he's going to Saudi. You go to PSG, you go to Real Madrid, you go to Bar, anywhere in Europe that we could play against you and you could impose a threat against us, 40 million. I think the price goes up considering there's potential to play against Riyad Mahrez and he could help other teams that would hinder our progress potentially. That's when the fee starts needing to go up, and then you add, obviously, there's English tax as well. Like, look at Declan Rice, the figures, and he seems to be the benchmark now. He's the new benchmark of any sort of figure that we talk about for a player. We talk about Declan Rice. Well, if Declan Rice costs this much, then he must cost that much, and whoever it may be. I'm not sure the game works like that. I'm not sure the transfer market works like that. It doesn't. If a certain player fits your squad perfectly, then you do go the extra mile for them. And I think that's why City should do that for Gvardiol, especially considering Laporte is now rumoured to be going to Bilbao, back to where we signed him from. And I mean, how much legs has that got? It's a bit of a downward step, that, for me. I mean, the guy's better than Bilbao, 28 years old. He's got plenty of prime centre-back years ahead of him. At least 3 or 4 or 5 years we're talking about here. And going back to Bilbao, I think that's a downward step. Unless there's some sentimental value in going back to where he started, spent a large period of his career. So I'm not convinced that that's a good deal for him. I mean, in terms of like City, he's not going to go away to a Premier League club, and yeah, he's going to Bilbao, who are not even in the Champions League, so he's no threat to us. Again, it's an odd one. There are some odd deals going on in this transfer market, and it's confusing, to say the least. It is confusing. And then there's Cancelo, back in training. I think that was inevitable. The question is that I'm not privy to the information of whether he's training with the first team squad. Is he part of Pep's plans, like actually training plans? I don't mean match plans and season plans. I'm talking about that day, that particular day of training and his plans, and integrating him into the systems that he's trying to teach everybody, and any new ideas for the upcoming season. Is Cancelo part of that? Because that doesn't make sense, especially if he's not going to be part of the squad, in terms of like we're putting him into one side, making training a corner, as far as I'm concerned, because he's said too much. Now, I'm a forgiving guy. I like to think that if you are going to do something wrong, you need to do an apology, and a proper one. So if he's sat down with the whole squad, stood up in front of them with Pep Guardiola and said, I apologise for my behaviour, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to you guys for letting the team down and kicking up a fuss and spitting my dummy about not being able to get as many minutes as I wanted to. When you look at the likes of Bernardo Silva and players like that who weren't getting as many minutes at that period of the season either, then you don't see him doing this sort of thing. That's my point. But if you're willing to apologise publicly, it can't just be a come in with your tail tucked between your legs and head down, like hoping everyone's forgotten. Like, oh yeah, guys, hi, it's me again, so I'm back. Yeah, like, yeah, come on. And it can't be like that. You need to hold your hands up and go, yeah, I fucked up. Sorry, guys. I genuinely am sorry. I have every intent to work as hard as I can, and if Pep doesn't play me, Pep doesn't play me. I want to be part of this squad. Then you go, oh, fair enough, second chances. I believe in second chances. I do believe in that. We've seen how many players have had second seasons, which is effectively a second chance, at proving themselves under Pep Guardiola. So maybe Cancelo could do that if it came with a big apology that was public. I think that's the only way back for him. Without that, see you later, as far as I'm concerned. That's the best deal you're going to get from City. I don't understand. And it's... If City do go that, what set an example is that to other players, that Pep Guardiola has allowed Cancelo to come back without an apology? All he did was kick up a fuss, whinge about getting not enough game time, ended up getting a loan move to Bayern Munich. I wouldn't say flopped there, but was close to being labelled as a flop. Didn't do much, hardly tore up any trees over there. And now he's back, and after kicking up a hissy fit, he's straight back in the squad. I mean, what example does that set to the likes of Rico Lewis and any other young kids that are in the same boat, that are not getting the minutes that they may think they want or are entitled to? And yeah, all I have to do is kick up a fuss, and I might get a loan out of it. That's the worst case scenario. Then I'm back in the team, no problem. No worries, I can just kick off whenever I want. That doesn't set the right example. So if you want to set the right example, you either apologise, Cancelo, that's a good example to set, or Pep Guardiola sets the example and says, if you behave like that, you're finished. It's as simple as that. And I think that's what the stance City should take. And with rumours that he wants to go to Barcelona, that's also included. Barcelona can't even afford him. And a loan is the rumoured fee. 20 million fee, sorry. Loan is, the package would be 20 million to loan him for a year. And they can't afford that. That's an expensive loan deal, I'll give you that, because that's one player that will, at the end of the year, won't be their player at the end of the year. And he's going from loan to loan now, and he's spoiling his career with this baby child, this attitude of not getting enough minutes, so I kick off. Like, yeah, you're spoiling your own career, Mr. Cancelo. So if he goes to Barcelona on loan, they can't afford to pay back 40 million they owe for Ferran Torres. They can't afford De Jong's wages. So why are they being linked with a club like, people talk about City? Oh, you can't buy class. Well, Barcelona can't fucking buy anybody. So don't talk about buying class. I mean, class is being able to run your books. At least we can run our own books. They've put themselves under ridiculous financial turmoil, and now they're owing us. Can you imagine if City owed somebody money? I have never known any club to owe £40 million and just be allowed to. When are we getting that money? Where's the deal? What is the circumstances of being owed that money, and when do we get it? It seems like a very generous situation from City to Barcelona. There, we are being very lenient. If you owe us £40 million and they've not paid it, I'll be knocking on the door, send the bailiff round, kick in the door. Waving your 4-4, as Biggie Smalls once said. Like, get that trophy out of that. I'll have that trophy. Yeah, I'll have that trophy as well. Just jack a few things and sell it on eBay. I want my money back. Get the bailiff. What are they playing at Barcelona? Honestly, it's madness what's going on there. But my idea is an interesting one. Harry Kane is not going anywhere this summer, potentially. If he goes to Bayern Munich, my idea is bollocks. Absolute nonsense. If he goes to Bayern Munich. But with Haaland, I guarantee you that next season there will be 3 or 4 different occasions and multiple publications and articles that will suggest Real Madrid are back in for Haaland. He hadn't even kicked a ball in a City shirt yet, and he was already on his way to Real Madrid. So those are the rumours that people are trying to invigorate, get that move going. The journalists are trying to manufacture a move for him to Real Madrid. Now, obviously, the other stumbling block for this idea of mine is if Haaland stays. If we keep Erling Haaland, I mean, even then it's like an exciting possibility. But in a year's time, Harry Kane's free. Yeah? What is the problem with City signing Harry Kane in a year's time? Even if we did have Haaland, because he can play in a 10 role, he could play alongside. We're talking about Alvarez playing alongside Haaland. Why couldn't it be Kane playing alongside Haaland? That's a terrifying prospect for any set of defenders that want to go up against them two. You've already seen Harry Kane and how he can play in attacking midfield. Jose Mourinho, in fairness to him, got him playing that role alongside Son, and the versatility between the two of them was an amazing watch in that particular season, and it shows that he is a baller. Harry Kane can play ball. And if he's free, and all we're talking about is getting his wages on the books, he's guaranteed trophies. He gets to keep his Premier League record, because going to Bayern Munich, you wonder if he's got his eye on that Alan Shearer goal-scoring record, and maybe could that hinder his idea of going over to the Bundesliga and not staying in the Premier League to beat Alan Shearer's record? Or even going over to the Bundesliga and coming back one day, maybe, depending on the size of the deal to Bayern Munich. But I wouldn't be surprised if City don't have one eye on what's going on with Harry Kane this summer, because we get past this summer, he's basically going to be a free agent. And you can even sign that deal in January, I believe. So we could end up looking at Harry Kane, but then it's a question of how to fit him in alongside Haaland, if you even do. But I guarantee you the circulation of rumours will be Haaland out. Whether he does or he doesn't. I hope he stays. Of course I do. I want Haaland to stay for a decade. I'd love it. Because he could grow and become an even better player than Harry Kane, a better player, not just a goal scorer, a better player. Learn more of the game, learn to improve your touch, learn your adaptation to the midfield and getting involved, dropping deep, making decoy runs. There's so many aspects to Haaland's game that can be improved alongside the goal scoring record, which barely needs any improvement. It's like outrageous. That's not in question. What is in question for Haaland is his overall ability. Can he do more and drop into midfield a little bit more, collect the ball and do the other side of the game that Harry Kane does so well? But that's just an idea. Floating that one out there. See if it comes true or not in a year's time, won't we? But let me know in the comments below. Loads to get through today. So we've had 3 PSG players from PSG coming to City instead of Bernardo Silva. Absolute nonsense. Gvardiol, what is going on with that deal? Are you worried? I'm not. I think it's going to happen. I hope it happens. Then there's the Undayi from Senegal, the Senegal player, Lyon, loaned out to Bastia. Then you've got Mahrez, the rejection of that. Do you want to see him go? Cancelo's back in training. And then my Harry Kane idea. Lots to get through today. Let me know your thoughts in the comment sections below. Like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Typical City is the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is typical City now, holding up Silva.